Hey guys, welcome back to Python for Beginners. This is episode 3. We're going to be working more on some functions, explaining what we did last time, and then looking at collections, which are lists and tuples. We'll explain more about that as we give some examples. So a quick recap. We created this function mymax, a and b, which takes two numbers, a and b, as parameters, and returns the larger one. So we used the if statement to compare the numbers and the return statement to send the answer back. So here's our function that we wrote, and those words that I've highlighted in orange are reserved words, meaning that Python, they're kind of like magic words for Python that have special meaning. MyMax, A and B, they don't really have any inherent meaning in and of themselves. The symbols, like comma, the greater than sign, semicolon, those do, but the actual words themselves don't, other than, of course, the ones in orange. So def means that we're starting a function. So we say def, and then we give a function definition. We say mymax, and it takes in two parameters, a and b. Then we give a semicolon, and we indent one to say we're going to begin our function. Then we use the if statement. Now this does a quick check, and it says if the next statement is true, then evaluate the code that's underneath me. Otherwise, skip it. So if a is greater than b, meaning that we found our max, return a, the larger number. Now if that's not true, our only possible option is that b is greater than a, so we will return b. And those return statements basically mean that mymax, wherever we call it, will be replaced with whichever number we return. So on to iterables. Iterables are collections, consist right now of lists and tuples. Lists are going to be pretty straightforward, and then tuples are going to be kind of a little modifier on that. So in computer science, we often want collections of things. We're not just working with one number, or else we'd be using a scientific calculator. We want to be working on large data sets. We're often working on scientific data where there could be literally millions and millions of samples, and we want to be able to collect those together and go over them one by one or do something to all of them. So we have several ways of doing this. Two of the most common are lists and tuples. So lists are mutable, which means that the objects inside can be changed, and it can be extended and shortened, and it is kind of thought to be just representative of a series of objects, just kind of in a row. Tuples are immutable, meaning that if we try and change one of the values in them, it will not let us. And typically they kind of represent a single object. We can't make them any larger or smaller, and we can't change any of the values then. So I'll give an example that will kind of demonstrate this. So we're going to create a list containing cups of water. So here's a visual representation of our drinks. We're going to say drinks equals, and then we use these brackets here. And this drink's empty, this one's about half full, about a quarter full, and this one's all the way full. The geometry is not going to add up on that. I'm just trying to show these are in cups. Just look at the water level. I'm not an artist. So how we can put this in Python is we say drinks equal 0, because this one's 0% full, 0.75, because this one's 3/4 full, 0.25, and 1, so on. Now we can modify lists. So for example, that's what it means when a list is mutable. So we can refill the first cup. Let's say these are drinks on a platter, and we are a waiter, and we go grab one of them, and we want to give this person some more water. So indices in lists in Python and most other programming languages, they start at 0. That's really the only kind of difference, which is weird because you don't really say this is the you're the 0th person in line. You know, you say, oh, it's the first person in line, the second person in line, and so on. But there's a variety of mathematical advantages to starting your indices at 0, and so most languages do it. So what we're going to do is we say drinks at 0 equals 1.0. So we use this bracket notation here to say, to index into our list to get that first drink, and then we assign it a new value. So if we were to put drinks into our REPL, we'd be able to see that it would be, our first value would be 1, and then 0.75, 0.25, 1 again. Now a tuple is something that's immutable, and it's something that's it's kind of meant to represent an object in and of itself. A lot of times you could think of something like a bank record, like, you know, John Smith 100, you know, and then their address. You wouldn't want to extend that because there's only so many records and so on. So keeping with our water example here, we use a little bit of a jargon here. We say it's immutable and it's got a constant cardinality or size or length. So a 6-pack of waters, of course, because we're healthy, is going to be exactly 6 full cups of water. If you go to the store and you buy a 6-pack and one of them is halfway gone, that's a health hazard. You're probably going to get someone's nasty mouth germs. You're not going to want to drink that. So a 6-pack is defined as 6 full cups. In Python speak, we've got the same exact thing. Notice here we're using parentheses instead of those square brackets. That is key. Be sure to watch out. Tuples and lists are not the same. Our example will show that there are some gotchas with them, and they can't really be used interchangeably. So once again, here's our definition of a 6-pack. We have exactly 6 drinks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all of them are full. We've got 1.0 in all of them. So if in our code we want to check to see if the 4th drink is full, remember, since we index at 0, our 4th drink is going to be 3, because it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4th. And if we put that in, our REPL will give us 1.0. Alright, so let's actually go into Replit and make sure that this is true. So what I've done here is I've copied, no, we don't really need our max, but I got over here some code which represents what we've done. So over here is our list of drinks. If we print that out, we should expect to get that list back. Here, let's cut this out, and then we will do one at a time. Taking a moment to reconnect. Gotta love those online compilers. Alright, or not compilers, interpreters. Alright, so you can see we get our list back. Alright, now let's refill that first drink. So if we run this again, we should expect, see our second output there, the first drink has 1.0. And finally, let's check and make sure that we've got a 6-pack in here correctly. So there's our definition, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll check to make sure that the 4th, index is 3, drink is full. So run that again, and our last result here is 1.0. Now let's do something interesting over here in our REPL. Let's try and we're going to guzzle one of the 6-packs in the grocery store. Let's just try and drink the second drink, and you know, we're going to get away with it. So let's say 6-pack at, and we're going to drink the second drink, so that's going to be index 1 equals, and we're going to drink the whole thing, 0. Oh, there's an error here. Trace back. Type error. Tuple object does not support item assignment. So as you can see, tuple is not going to let us change it. 6-pack, always going to be a 6-pack. If we wanted to do something, we could say, you know, my 6-pack equals list 6-pack. Then if you say my 6-pack, there it is. Note that we've got brackets now. And we can say my 6-pack at 1 equals 0. Because we've created a copy now that's a list. And no error. Let's check out my 6-pack again. Ah, our second drink, gone. We guzzled it. So that's the difference between lists and tuples, and just kind of a quick overview of our symbol function that we wrote. Next time we're going to be going over how to build some of these lists using actual iteration, for loops and while loops. And with this, we're going to really start to see the power of computer science and what exactly we can start putting together that has real use beyond pretending to drink water and steal. Anyway, until next time.